welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about the SAP System Landscape, Episode 3. Now this is one of those topics that every SAP professional uses every single day on a project, but nobody explains it clearly to beginners. So today I'm going to change that. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what DEV, QAT and PRD means, why all three exist, and what the SAP Security team does in each one. Let us get started. Here is what we are covering in this session. We will start with what SAP System Landscape is and why it exists. Then we will look at each system development, quality and production one by one. After that, we will understand how changes move between these systems using something called transport process. And finally, we will talk about what exactly SAP Security team does at each stage. Everything is connected, so follow along carefully. So first, what exactly is a system landscape in SAP? A system landscape is simply a group of connected SAP systems that work together, each one with a different purpose. Think about this practically. When your company is change in SAP, like a modifying the role or creating a role or changing a configuration, you do not want to make that change directly in the live system where real business is running. That would be too risky. So SAP gives you three separate systems, one for building and testing your work, one for proper testing with the real business users, and one where the actual business runs. This three system approach protects the company. It makes sure no untested change ever reaches to real users and real business data. The three systems are DEV, QAT, and PRT. DEV stands for development. This is where all the work is done, where configurations are built, roles are created, and everything is designed first. QAT stands for quality assurance and testing. This is where everything built in development gets tested properly by both the technical team and the business users. PRD stands for production. This is the live system. Real employees work here every day. Real business transactions happen here. Real data lives here. The flow is always from the left to right. Dev to quality, quality to production. Changes never go backwards. Let us look at development in more details. Development is the first system in the landscape. It is purely a workspace. No real business data lives here. No real users work here. It is where SAP technical team, including SAP security consultants, do all their design and build work. Think of development like a workshop. A carpenter doesn't build furniture directly in the customer's house. They build it in the workshop first, check it, fix any issues, and only then deliver it. For SAP Security, specifically, when you need to create a new role or change an existing one, you always start in development. You build the role using a transaction called PFCG. You test it with a test user. You make sure it works correctly. Only after everything looks good in development does the work move forward, and how does it move. That is where the transport comes in, which we will cover shortly. One important thing about development, because it uses a test data and test users, mistakes here do not affect anyone. That is exactly why the system exists. It is a safe place to build and learn. QAT, quality assurance and testing system. After something is built and tested in development, it moves to quality, and here the nature of testing changes completely. In development, only technical team is testing. But in QAT, the business users comes in. Real person from finance, HR, procurement, or whatever department the role is for. They log into QAT and test whether they can do their actual job. For example, if you created a role for a finance executive in development and transported it to quality, now a real finance person logs in and tries to post an invoice. If they get an error, the security consultant goes back to dev, fixes the role, and transport again. This cycle repeats until everything works correctly. QAT is also where the segregation of duties check happens. The audit or compliance team reviews whether any user has conflicting access, like the ability to both create and approve payment. If they find a conflict, it gets fixed in development and retransported. Nothing goes to production without sign-off from both the business teams and the audit team in QAT. In many regulated industries, this is a legal requirement, not just a best practice. The third system is the production. Production is where real business runs. Real employees log in here every day. Real invoices are posted. Real salaries are processed. Real customers' orders then managed. Production is the most sensitive system in the entire landscape. A mistake here directly impacts the business. If a user gets wrong access in production, they might see confidential data they should not, or perform actions they are not supposed to. This is why the rule is absolute. Nothing goes directly to production. Everything must pass through development and quality first. For SAP security consultants, working in production requires extra care. When you assign a role to a real users in production using SU01, you are giving them real access to your live system. Every action you take here has real consequences. Production is also where ongoing monitoring happens. The security team regularly monitors audit logs in production to make sure there is no suspicious activity or unauthorized access. We'll cover audit monitoring in a future episodes. Now let us talk about how changes actually move from development to quality, quality to production. This is called the transport process. In SAP, you cannot just copy and paste a role from one system to another. SAP has a built-in mechanism for this called the transport management system. Usually we'll call it as a TMS. Here is how it works. When you finish building something in development, a role configuration, any change, you create something called a transport request. Think of it as a package that contains all your changes. You release this transport request and SAP's transport management system automatically delivers to the QAT. After testing is completed and approval is given, the same package is delivered to production. Think of it like a courier service inside an SAP. You pack your work, hand it over to courier, which is TMS, and it delivers to the next destination. For SAP security consultant, understanding transport is very important. Every role you create or modify in development must be transported. If you forget to transport a change, the roles in quality and production will not be updated and users will not get the correct access. Transports also create a complete audit trail. Every change is recorded. What changed, who made it, and when it was moved. This is extremely valuable during the security audits. Now let me tell you exactly what the SAP security team does in each system. This is what you will actually be doing on a project. In development, this is where you spend most of your design time. You open a PFCG, build and design roles, set the correct authorization objects and field values, and test with a test user. Once the role is working correctly, you create a transport request and send it to a quality. In quality, you assign the transported roles to a test users using SU01. Then you will work closely with the business team while they test it. If they find issues, wrong access, missing transactions, error messages, you go back to development, fix, and transport again. You also work with the audit team here on SOD checks. Once everyone is happy, you give the go ahead for production. In production, this is where you assign roles to real end users using SU01. Every assignment here must be done carefully and only after full QAT approval. After go live, you handle day-to-day access requests, monitor audit logs, and manage any emergency access situations. Same consultant, same tools, but the purpose and stakes are completely different in each system. This is the same slide which we have discussed so far. So whatever I have explained, so here it is already written in development system, what you do in the quality system, what you do in the production system, what you have to do. So who is the owner at each level and what's the security task at each system. So that and all I have mentioned in a separate slide. You can go through that one. Okay. Let me tell you why understanding the landscape specifically matters for your career in SAP security. First, every SAP project follows this landscape. Big company or small company, ECC or S4HANA. The three system structure is standard everywhere. If you do not understand it, you will struggle to follow what is happening in any project. Second, interviewers always ask about it. One of the most common beginners interview question is, can you explain the SAP transport process? Or what is the difference between development, quality and production? After today's session, you can answer both clearly and confidently. Third, it teaches you to be careful. A mistake in development has no impact. A mistake in quality causes delays. A mistake in the production affects real users and the real business. Understanding this makes you a more responsible and professional consultant. Fourth, change control. In most companies, moving something to production requires formal approval. Understanding why this exists and following the process is something senior consultants and project managers notice and appreciate. Let me quickly summarize what we covered today. The SAP system landscape has three systems: development, quality, and production. Changes always move from development to quality to production, never backwards. This movement happens through the transport management system. As an SAP security consultant, you work in all three systems, but your role and responsibilities are different in each role. And understanding the landscape is theory. It directly helps you in interviews, in projects, and in become more professional and careful consultant. That brings us to the end of the episode 3. I hope that concept is now completely clear for you. It is one of those things that sounds confusing at first, but once you understand it, it just makes sense. In episode 4, we are going to get into the roles and authorizations, the actual technical foundation of SAP security. This is the episode where the real hands-on learning begins. Do not miss it. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so you do not miss episode 4. I am also posting the entire series on LinkedIn. The link is in the description below. Drop me a comment below and tell me before watching this, did you already know about this landscape? I read every single I read every single comment. Thank you for watching. See you in episode 4.